Getting fired is nature's way of telling you that you had the wrong job in the first place. Hal Lancaster. Welcome to the Stitch for Success podcast. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, friend, and lifelong learner. I have a love and passion for all things small business. If you are a budding entrepreneur or just thinking about starting your own business, I want to help you. Every week, my goal is to bring you tips, thoughts, inspirations, and education to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. I'm so excited to have you join me today because I'm sharing with you an interview with lots of lessons and inspiration for taking the big leap. Given the level of unemployment right now, I'm hoping that this episode will light a fire under someone out there to start the business that they have been putting off for years. Today's guest is the founder of Vitalysys Technologies. Having seen a need for small to medium-sized business owners to have reliable IT support throughout Metro Atlanta, he founded his company just a bit over 10 years ago. Today, my guest is McBride, a family friend and fellow entrepreneur. Before starting his firm, he worked as a systems engineer in the financial services sector. He later would become a technology director at a managed services company that provided IT service and support for small and mid-sized businesses. His last job was that of chief technology officer at another firm where he was responsible for 40% growth. A husband, father of 3, board member for Rainbow Village, and a mentor for young men and a coach for youth sports, McBride stays busy and enjoys giving back to his community. Today, I would like to welcome McBride, founder and CEO of Vitalysys Technologies. McBride, thank you so much for joining me on the Stitch for Success podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in. Having known each other for almost 20 years, I can remember before you started Vitalysys Technologies, you spoke quite passionately about how you would never be an entrepreneur. You never wanted to run your own business. What changed? What was the reason you started your business?
Circumstances definitely was the primary reason. I was always, I guess, quasi-envious of entrepreneurs, those who did just step out and take that risk and, were successful at it or even was unsuccessful at it. And for me, I was in a situation working for a company, and the owner of the company, the CEO, he and I had a conversation one evening after a long and stressful day, and sat me down and pretty much terminated me. I was fired, took one right between the eyes, and that was even saying it right now it's still difficult to say. It was a tremendous shot to my ego. It was something that took me years, and I'm not exaggerating that. It took me years to acknowledge. I remember coming home and telling my wife, she was a stay-at-home at the time, 2 small children, and I remember telling her simply that it didn't work out. I couldn't bring myself to actually say the words. And I remember she looked at me and kind of turned and, looked in the refrigerator and said, "Well, I'm glad, because I know you didn't like that job anyway." And that kind of loosened things up for me. I didn't feel as bad in that particular moment, but as I was going to bed that night, I was still in shock, and it was literal shock. And waking up the next morning, my wife just simply said, "All right, so are you going to start your own business, or are you going to, look for a job?" And I remember asking her, "What do you mean start my own business?" And she said, "Well, you practically ran that company, so why don't you start your own business?" And in getting that blessing, from her, I remember still trying to talk her out of it, because I had some idea of what it would take to start a company. And, having 2 small children, I remember telling her that, hey, this is going to be extremely time consuming and take a lot of focus and effort, but I am not going to, look for a job and try and start a company. I have to be all in. And with that being said, I made the decision. She backed me on it to start the company. And actually, Ethan was the first person that I called. And I remember, just sharing with him, hey, I am looking to start my own company. And the 5 minute conversation that I had with them, had with him, was overwhelming support. I mean, I think he was more excited than I was. I remember him saying, hey, don't put a lot of time into company name and all that jazz. Just get a company started. He said, you can call it McBride Technology Group and move forward. But at that time, I didn't want my name associated with the company, because to me, that just, it's thinking small. No knock on those who do have companies named after them, but that was just for me. So I was able to, come up with the name Vitalysys, which is a blend of the word vital and systems. And I call it Vitalysys, but that is why I was able to found the company, to start the company. I was terminated from the previous company that I was working for.
Wow, McBride, that's a story for you. So I assume your termination was quite unexpected.
Very.
Wow. Yeah, that's a shocker. Well, congratulations to you on 10 years of being in business. That's quite
Yes.
an accomplishment.
Yes.
And looking back over the past 10 years, what would you say was one of the biggest challenges you have had to overcome in your business?
Biggest challenge would be, I think there's different levels to it. Initially, the biggest challenge was just getting clients, the clientele. I think all business owners walk in, fresh-eyed, bushy-tailed, if you will, and then you start to realize that people actually do say no, and they say no quite often. So getting clients was a challenge, but through the grace of God, things worked out. I remember signing my first client. It was a gentleman. I went to a event. It was a new orientation event, and I had no intention of going to that event. But you have to be disciplined as a small business owner, and that was an invite. It was on my calendar, so I labored through it. Went to the new member orientation for this organization, and the gentleman that was paired with me was one of the largest cabinet manufacturers in the Southeast. And he made the comment, I can't find anyone in IT. And I thought the heavens opened up. I thought it was a joke. I was being punked, but he and I, started talking, and long story short, he became my first client that I signed, and it was like hitting the lottery for me. To be quite honest, I was emotional, when I got home, like, wow, someone's actually, going to use my services, use my company. But then after you get past the clientele, I think it is the distinguishing yourself. There are hundreds of other businesses right here in the Metro Atlanta area that do the exact same thing that Vitalysys does. So we have to, say what we're going to do what we're going to say. I like to use the mindset of treating our first client like it's our last, and our last client like it's our first. So just staying consistent, being able to stay relevant in this technology field. It is constantly evolving. So that's our challenge, I would say, over the last, 2 years, is just continuing to stay trained up on the latest and greatest technologies.
Okay, I got you a little Jay-Z there too. I heard it in there.
A lot of those.
So what's something that you would say keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur?
Wow. Other than a global pandemic that's going on right now,
Right.
right now, keeping me up at night would have to be, again, just the constant evolution of technology. And this global pandemic has been an awakening, I think, to us as a country, globally, for that matter. And for me, it's letting the staff know, ensuring our customers, our clients know that we can meet the need of your technology challenges. So a year ago, many business owners did not really even look to the future or look at telecommuting, working remotely as a solution for their business. They had a brick and mortar store. They wanted to have their staff, employees in there working. But then literally overnight, back in early March, it changed and something unprecedented happened. The government said you cannot go into work. You have to shelter in place. So that's something that, had a lot of people on edge, but we were able to let our customers, clients know that, hey, we can get you access to your information. And for a minute, that had me up at night, literally, because we were helping our clients at night, which was the best time for them to be able to get access back to their network. So that was my biggest challenge, keeping me up at night from a technology standpoint. From a, I guess, operations standpoint, it is putting standard procedures in place and being consistent with those procedures. We work in a very dynamic environment, but we have to standardize a lot of our policies and procedures in terms of engaging customers and clients, and that's keeping me up, just getting that fully implemented and in place.
Okay. Yeah, that can definitely be a hurdle to get over. So speaking of the pandemic, how has that impacted your business from a financial perspective? You mentioned being busy and up at night thinking about it, but how has that impacted your business?
We have been very fortunate enough that it has not been a negative impact. If anything, it's been more than a positive, because business owners wanted to continue to stay in business. They had to, pay for the solutions to be able to keep their staff engaged, secure remote access, different levels of security and certificates and tokens and things for employees to be able to work. And then often the employees were saying, hey, I can't work during the day because my kids are at home, etc. So they would have to engage us after hours. And, there's a different rate, if you will, working after hours. So it's been positive for us, but we've definitely heard some nightmare stories of other businesses that have not been so fortunate. So we're definitely very thankful that we haven't been one of those businesses significantly impacted in a negative way.
Right. Yeah. Your services have definitely been essential to businesses. So knowing what you know now, in this entrepreneurial journey, what is something you would tell your younger self starting out?
Man, the younger me, I would say start to implement the policies and procedures sooner. Think big from day one. Think success from day one. I think oftentimes as an entrepreneur, you're in such a survival and grind mode that once you get out of that mode, you still continue to operate in a survival and grind mode. So for me, the first 2 years, it was literally just go, 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 go. I didn't know how to turn it off, if you will. I didn't appreciate the weekends because, hey, I could be out, working on a project right now. I could be doing something that was billable. And I would tell the younger me to take time to just smell the roses, if you will, to appreciate the successes and don't focus and live in the moment of the failures. I'm someone, if I do fail, make a mistake, it can just continue to just sit there and stay with me for quite some time. But you have to continue and just move on. You have to move on and get on to the next, if you will. So that's what I would tell the younger me, to think big. Don't get too high and don't get too low. Just stay even keeled and get those policies and standardizations in place as soon as possible.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a characteristic of an entrepreneur, because I'm the same way. When I make a mistake, I kick myself for sometimes for days, and I'm still
Mm-hmm.
working on getting over that. So,
Yeah.
or not doing that. So you mentioned your younger self versus now. Going back to the beginning, how many hours a week would you say you work versus now?
Wow. When I first started the company, it was easily, I'd say 6 in the morning till 10:30, 11 at night. So, 16 hours. And, but again, when you're working for yourself, I think there has to be an inherent passion in what you're doing. So the old cliche, it doesn't even feel like work. You are
Right.
just working on your passion. And so in the beginning, it was easily, 16 hours a day. I would neglect, other aspects of my life, and that's the beauty of having a family. I got a wife that will absolutely speak up and let me know, look, you shut it down. You need to come over here and be a part, of the family. And she's been instrumental in doing that, keeping me balanced and focused. But in the beginning, 16 hours a day. Now I've been able to get it down to, I'd say 9 hours, 10 hours a day. But a lot of that is chunked and broken up, if you will, where I can get a few hours in the middle of the day or in the morning. So it's much more manageable right now.
Gotcha. So I would assume that, some of those hours being taken back is probably because you have some employees now. When
Mhm.
did you hire your first employee, and how did you know it was time to hire?
Mm, man. First employee was hired almost 3 years into the business, and I knew it was time when a situation arose where I just simply could not be in two places at once. And that was conventional wisdom. Yep, it's time. So I started that process, and I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, you think that perfect employee is sitting at home waiting for you to call them to step in at the right, absolute opportunity, the right salary, they have the right work ethic, they have all of those things, and they're just going to help your business grow and grow. But I was been fortunate enough to have other business advisors around me, and they've shared with me that you want to stay as small as you can from a personnel side, as long as you can, to grow profits. And as the profits continue to grow, yes, you can increase your staff and employees. So 3 years into it, I was able to bring on my first employee, and there were some ups and some downs, some positives and negatives with doing that. But it was definitely a hurdle that I wanted to get to and a hurdle that I wanted to cross. So it was 3 years into Vitalysis.
Okay. And would you say there were some lessons learned there after hiring that first person that you did not or did do hiring the second?
Yes, from a training standpoint, I wanted to standardize the training and be much more clearer in terms of the expectations of the employee. I'm of the mindset that an employee will do, the vast majority of employees will do the absolute minimum to receive a paycheck and stay out of trouble. They're just not going to think like they own the company and go above and beyond consistently. They're going to, hey, if you ask me to do A, B, I'm going to do A, and we'll finish up B, and that's it. But as a business owner, you'll do A, B, C, and start thinking about G and H because eventually you're going to get there. But as an employee, no, they're thinking, to do the barest minimum. So with the first employee, the expectation wasn't clearly set. It was, hey, come on into work. We're going to figure this thing out. When we brought on our second employee, it was, you're going to be sitting here. Here's some training. Here's some skills that we want you to acquire over the next 3 months. I want you to feel comfortable engaging clients, front-facing meetings, etc. So I'd like to think that, yes, I did learn and continue to learn when it comes to bringing on new talent.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So, as you've been in business for 10 years, what is one thing that has surprised you?
Mm, One thing that surprises me from a owner standpoint, it is that other small businesses, small to mid-sized businesses, they have very similar challenges that IT companies have. as well. And what I mean by that is when it comes to talent, when it comes to staffing, they have very similar challenges because IT, I mean, it's a skill set. You go to school for it, you get experience with it, etc. And then other business owners say, hey, this doesn't require a degree for you to do it, but you do have to know how to, run a CNC machine, or you do have to know how to operate this particular piece of equipment. And when that individual, fired, terminated, leaves for a better position, bringing someone in, as quickly as possible, that can be a challenge. And the bigger the company, the more the challenges is probably the thing that surprised me the most, I guess. I always thought the bigger you got, the more efficient and more fluid your operation would be. But I've learned over time that the bigger you get, oftentimes the more convoluted the operation is. So I try and appreciate where we're at right now so we don't make those mistakes moving forward.
Yeah, I always think, at least if the smaller you are, the more you can turn faster. You can make changes
Yes.
quicker. When you're
Yes.
big, you got to go through this different layer.
Absolutely.
It's like trying to turn a huge elephant around versus just, moving is what I
Yes.
always think of. So, as you know, this podcast is called Stitch for Success. And I believe Zeus's Closet provided your first branded polo shirt for your company.
Yes.
What did it feel like the first time you wore your own company logo, your company?
Man, that is a feeling that, from one entrepreneur to another, I think only we know that unique feeling when you see these other bigger brands walking around, and then for you to have your brand as well. And it may not be up there on the marquee, but in your mind, hey, this is my brand. And I remember, yes, you all did do my first polo shirt, and I remember putting it on and walking in a store, and a gentleman was staring at it, and I know he was thinking to himself like, "Oh, what company is that?" And I had my logo and the name, and it was just a very, very humbling feeling. And in my mind, I'm able to think about the journey because I went from a place of, sitting down at a table and the CEO telling me this is not working out and you're being let go effective immediately, to now I'm able to sit at the table and I'm able to do the hiring and firing. And that's not something, as small business owners, we don't relish, I'm going to fire somebody today, but it is a empowering feeling to know when I walk into work, I'm not going to fire myself.
Right.
So that's not a challenge anymore. Now it's, again, keeping the talent in place and doing all of that good stuff. But having my logo, on my clothes, on different marketing material, it's just a very humbling, feeling to know, wow, I own this logo and this brand and company.
Fantastic. Yeah, I find firing is just not pleasurable. No matter what. No matter, the person know they're already halfway out the door anyway, but it's just not a pleasant process.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, McBride, before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to share about your entrepreneurial journey, or any advice you would like to give to someone else starting out?
Yes, for those who are considering starting their own, taking their own entrepreneurial path, I would strongly, the biggest, most important piece of advice I can give you is to surround yourself with other like-minded individuals that can appreciate what it is you're trying to do, because everyone does not think like an entrepreneur. The vast majority of people, even very close friends of yours, can tell you, I wouldn't do that. No, you got a good job. It's safe. You're taking a big risk. You got kids. Think of all the time you're going to have to spend. They look at all the negatives when it comes to starting a business instead of focusing on the positives. And if and when you do step out on that journey, you're going to need to have people you can call and just, you can vent to them, you can share with them your failures, but definitely make sure you share with them your successes, no matter how small these successes are. A tradition, me and my wife have each year, we always go out to dinner, just the two of us, on the anniversary of Vitalysys. And sometimes it's a really, really nice dinner. Sometimes we just have time to grab a low-end, low-key dinner. But what I do is the tip is $10 for each year that I've been in business. And usually the server will sometimes ask, hey, what's the occasion? Or I'll even say to the server what the occasion is. And then at the end of the meal, we're able to gift them with a tip. Now it's $100 tip. And sometimes the meal might come to $55. But I just feel so fortunate to be able to do something like that by being in business, for 10 years. And that I have a circle of friends, and I would include you and Ethan in that circle, of someone that I can call, and you guys understand the day-to-day grind of being an entrepreneur. All in a 24-hour period, you can experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But for these entrepreneurs, don't be afraid, step out, but please, please surround yourself with individuals that are going to support you in this journey, because you are absolutely going to need it.
Definitely. That is such great advice. McBride, I'm so glad you were able to take some time with me today. This has been fantastic. I truly appreciate it. If someone out there needs your services, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Best way is you can go to our website, vitalysystechnologies.com. There's a contact page on there. You can also call the office, 770-877-2535.
So if you're in need of IT services where you are sure to be a repeat customer without repeat problems, reach out to McBride of Vitalysys Technologies. McBride, I'm so happy that you had some time to do this interview with me. Thank you again. I hope you enjoy your Saturday.
All right, Monica, same to you.
All
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. That was my interview with McBride of Vitalysys Technologies. I'm so glad he had some time to give us. I hope you find something in this episode to inspire you to start, grow, or improve your business. Thanks so much for listening today. I truly appreciate you tuning in. I would also appreciate you taking a moment to do 4 things that will take less than 2 minutes. Subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, share it with a friend, and follow me on Instagram at Stitch for Success. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, please direct message me on Instagram. Or you can leave me a voicemail message by visiting stitchforsuccess.com. Always a pleasure to have you listen in. Have a great one.